So, you just now or recently got hold of Hell Let Loose and are getting completely overwhelmed in the first few rounds that you played. Now don't worry, we've all been there and we've all died more times than we can count in those first few rounds. Hell Let Loose is arguably one of the best World War II shooters out there, but it does have a bit of a learning curve as the mechanics of the game are different from your standard first-person shooters. To help you along your way, I've got 10 tips to clear a few things up. Welcome back to the channel. I'm DGW, and as said, these 10 tips should get you going in Hell Let Loose. Now I will be brief on all these 10 tips because I will elaborate them further in other tutorial videos, and please feel free to check out other tutorial videos that I've made. Not every single one is completely up to date because there have been some changes since I made those, but most of it is still pretty accurate, and those few changes you will quickly notice and adapt to them. I will be releasing further updates on those tutorials as well as a couple extra. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Tip number 1 is going to be a mindset change. Don't expect your kills to really count towards the end of the game. In this game, killing is a means, not a goal in itself. Killing an enemy is done so that you have a possibility of achieving a goal that you have. That specific enemy is in between you and your objective, so you have to take him out. The objective of this game is map control, controlling areas on the map and enabling access for your own team and disabling access to those areas for the enemy team. The access of your team is done by the availability of spawns, garrisons and OPs, and disabling the enemy's access to the area by destroying their spawn points, garrisons, OPs and airheads. This kind of goes into point 2. You never have enough spawn options. Having as many spawn options as you can and spreading them around the positions that you're either attacking or defending enable your team to have access to the area and quickly respond if need be. Spreading them around also enables your team to flank the enemy as well as defending your own flanks. The game offers 4 spawning options. The first is 3 HQ spawn points. These are essentially always available and fixed in place. They can be overrun, but that only happens if the enemy is capturing the last sector. If there's too many enemies in the spawn location, the area becomes unavailable. The second spawn option is the garrisons. These are placed by either the commander or the squad leaders in the game and can be spawned upon by the entire team. Each team can build a maximum of 8 garrisons. They have to be placed 200 meters apart, and they require either 50 supplies in friendly territory or 100 supplies in enemy territory. In regards to enemy territory, they can only be placed in the first 2 blocks of enemy territory. As said, spawning is your team's access to the game, and this goes for the enemy team as well. So disabling enemy spawn points is one of your priorities. To take out a garrison, you either have to walk up close and hold F, you can shoot a rocket at them if you are a AT, or a direct bombing run hit or artillery hit will take him out as well. A garrison in enemy territory can be overrun as soon as a single soldier gets within 100 meters. The third spawn option is the outpost or OP, which can be placed by squad leaders. They can be placed in the same locations as garrisons, but have no requirement in regards to supplies and can be placed as close together as you want. Although I would suggest trying to spread them out a bit so a single enemy soldier doesn't take out all the possibilities of spawning for your team. The only constraint in placing OPs is the squad leader can only place one and only update it every 2 minutes. Now do note, a OP can only be spawned upon by the squad that it was placed by. Destroying OPs is a lot easier than garrisons as you just have to walk close to them, and proximity explosions from grenades, rocket launchers, artillery, bombing guns, tank shells will take them out. The last spawn option is the so-called airhead, which is a temporary garrison placed by the commander. As placement goes, it's the same for garrisons and OPs, and destroying them is the same as for garrisons. When the commander places it, it takes about a minute before it becomes available, and then is available for 2 minutes. So it's vital that squad leaders spawning there get an OP down in that area as soon as they can. Again, not too close together so they don't get taken out in a single sweep. Now all that talk about objective and spawning options leads us to point 3. How to actually win the round. The game offers 2 modes, which is warfare and offensive. In offensive, winning or losing is very straightforward. You either have to capture all 5 points or you have to defend at least 1. Capturing a point in offensive mode is done by having more bodies inside the stronghold than the enemy. takes only 1 minute to cap, and there is no way for the enemy team to recapture points that you've won, and vice versa. When it comes to warfare mode, it is a bit more complicated. In warfare, it's not only the stronghold itself that counts, but also the 4 blocks surrounding it. Each body inside the 4 blocks counts as 1, so it's just a simple math. However, each body inside a stronghold counts double, and then the commander has the ability to triple the body count in the stronghold. But using that only makes sense if there's actually friendly bodies inside the stronghold, otherwise it's just a waste of resources. Cap time in warfare mode is effectively 2 minutes. In both cases, warfare and offensive, it all leads back to access to the area. Make sure there's enough spawns for your team, so you can reinforce the area as soon as possible, and make sure the enemy is not able to do the same by taking out their spawns. In the case of a warfare mode battle, make sure you don't leave the area until at least 1, preferably 2 garrisons are available, so your team gains access in case of defending. In an offensive mode, it doesn't matter because the enemy team cannot recap the point you just captured. In all cases, it's important to try and flank the enemy as well and not just have one large front. A good flank is at least 200 meters away, i.e. 1 square box on the map. As your team is trying to flank, so will probably the enemy try to flank, so make sure you also defend your flanks. This leads me to point 4. Keep an eye on your map. Your map can give you an incredible amount of information of what's happening in certain areas. First of all, garrisons and OPs have a radar function. As soon as an enemy gets within 50 meters of them, they light up. So, when they do, you know that enemies are near and they might be trying to flank you, they might have gotten behind you with an airhead, etc. Don't ignore it and make sure you call it out and make sure you check it out. If it is left unattended, you might lose your spawn locations to an area and you might get overwhelmed really quickly. Secondly, on the map you'll see several markers and also pings from your squad. Those markers and pings, along with communication via text or preferably voice chat, will give you information of what's happening in certain areas. Also, the map shows which way friendly soldiers are facing, and if a bunch of them are facing the same direction, you can kind of bet on it there's enemies in that direction. Friendly bodies on the map disappearing means they're getting killed, which also is an indication there's enemies near. Same goes for friendly vehicles, by the way. If you're really new to the game, it is probably best to stay away from any kind of leading roles. Best thing to do is either pick a role like Rifleman, Assault or Automatic Rifleman, because they don't have any special abilities and more like shooting kind of roles. Or pick a role like Support, which is pretty much a shooting role but does have the option of dropping supplies, and if you level it up you can also drop ammunition for your team. Yet none of these roles have very special abilities, so they're not too complex to get your head around, and you can actually learn the game before you start to go more into depth. Also, when selecting a role, ask your team or your squad what they might need. They might need nodes built, so you have to pick engineer. They might be running into several enemy tanks, so maybe an anti-tank role is more helpful to the team. If you do not know what a specific role requires, feel free to ask it, and most of the guys on the battlefield are more than happy to help you on your way. That being said, I do have a couple of tutorials for specific roles, so feel free to check those out. Hell Let Loose is a cooperation game. If you don't work together as a team, there's not going to be a lot of chance that you win as a team. As such, it is vital that you are able to communicate. Preferably by using a microphone, but if you don't have that available for whatever reason, try and listen to what other guys are saying and keep an eye out on text chat and make sure that you mention things in text chat as well. The C button allows you to communicate with your squad mates. The V button will allow you to use proximity chat, so all friendlies in a specific area will hear you, and X is only for commanding roles, squad leaders, commander, tank commanders, etc. The same kind of goes for text chat. L enables you to talk to your squad and K enables you to talk to the team. Downside of text chat is that when you're typing you can't actually do anything else, so it might be a moment in which you get shot. As such, choose your moments wisely. Now point 7 and point 8 are kind of an extension of each other. They are two different aspects, but they do interlink heavily. Now point 7 is that you have to move with care. Don't run across open ground because it's very easy to get spotted and killed. Better yet, don't run at all. Always try and stay crouched. If you're crouched you can still run, but it's a lot easier to duck away behind cover, and you are simply less visible. When crouched, your running speed is a bit lower. Best thing to do is try and move from cover to cover, As soon as you're behind cover, try and wait for a few seconds, listen and look around if you spot or hear anything. As said, this links directly into point 8. First of all, if you're running, your reaction will be slower. This has nothing to do with your abilities in the game, it's just how the game works. Shooting, let alone shooting with any kind of accuracy, is pretty much impossible. So when you suspect enemies near, make sure you are prone and you aim down your sights and move slowly. This means as soon as an enemy gets into your crosshairs, your shots are both going to be accurate and a lot faster. Also, depending on the situation, you have to make a choice whether it is wise to even engage an enemy. Sometimes it's better just to wait and let him move along. As soon as you engage an enemy, first of all, they know that you're there. Even if you manage to kill him, he's still able to tell his team and squad that there's enemies in that area. Secondly, engaging that enemy might actually get you killed, and a lot of effort, perhaps a very long and broad flank, might have been an effort in vain. And trust me, we've all been there and had that frustration. Coming up close to the end of this video. First off is gonna be point 9. If it needs doing, do it. Don't expect anybody else to do it. Are you being asked to redeploy? Redeploy. Unless you have a very good reason not to. And please note, killing enemies is not a reason not to redeploy. Only if you're about to take out an enemy spawn or nodes, etc. That might be okay. Does the team need somebody to drop supplies? Redeploy as support and drop those supplies. And if the commander is begging for nodes so he has resources towards his abilities, make sure you switch to engineer and get those nodes built as soon as you can. Long story short, if it needs doing, do it, and don't expect a miracle and somebody else does it. Now, in reaching the last point, we're gonna go slightly more into depth about the meta of the game. First of all, your team will need supplies. These supplies enable the building of garrisons, nodes, AT guns, repair stations and defenses. Supplies can be placed down by support players. They have a crate with 50 supplies. The commander can issue an airdrop which has 100 supplies, or the supply truck can be driven to a certain location as it carries 2 crates of 150 supplies each. These supply trucks can be reloaded at all HQs by driving close to these cranes. Now, I don't want to go too far into depth about the abilities of building stuff on the battlefield, but I do want to cover nodes for a second. Building nodes is vital towards producing resources which enable the team / the commander to actually have abilities available. No nodes means no resources means the commander has no abilities. It's that plain and simple. You often hear and see guys on the battlefield complaining that the commander isn't doing anything, but none of them have taken the time to build nodes. So the first person to blame that the commander isn't able to do anything is everybody on the battlefield. There's 3 types of nodes available: an ammunitions node, a fuel node and a manpower node. Ammunition enables bombing runs and artillery fire. Fuel enables the spawning of new vehicles, tanks and trucks, and the manpower allows spawns, supplies and reinforcements. Those spawns being literally every single spawn, as well as the ability to place something like an airhead. Now, I realize this game is gonna be overwhelming in the first 3 rounds, no matter what. But if you play the game the way it is supposed to be played, by cooperating with your team and your squad, you will actually learn more about the game than if you just go solo. As you rack up the rounds that you play, you will learn more and more about the game, and you will start to enjoy the game much more each time. Somewhere down the line, probably quicker than you think, you're gonna get the hang of the game, and you will realize this is probably one of the best, if not the best, World War II game you've ever played. This video has turned out a lot longer than I had anticipated, but I do want to take the time to quickly mention the following. If there's anything you want to know, or you have spotted anything that I might have gotten wrong, feel free to mention this in the comments below and I'll make sure to get back to you as soon as I can. Same thing, by the way, goes for any suggestions that you might have towards my channel and improving the quality of videos, etc. Just drop your suggestions down in the comments below and I'll make sure to get back to you. And as always, make sure you leave a like on the video and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more. That all leaves me to thank you for watching, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.